Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Sean sent me a note, so Steve, check out the story about the class action. And it's reported widely. I got versions of it from two different places, including Newsweek and PennLive.com. They contain different facts, but United Healthcare customers might get paid up to $1,000. So if you are a United Healthcare customer, and you were a couple years ago, you could get $1,000. The reason this is newsworthy is that I always joke about class action settlements where each member of the class gets a coupon good for, 10% off your next set of floor mats or something really, really illusory and de minimis, as I like to say. So if you have United Healthcare, you may be entitled to some money. The healthcare company just agreed to a $2.5 million settlement, meaning eligible parties could receive up to $1,000 in cash. The top class action website reports that this class action lawsuit stems from accusations that United Healthcare repeatedly subjected customers to marketing phone calls, even after said customers repeatedly request to be removed from the company's call list. Class Action Org said that these unauthorized telemarketing calls affected about 12,000 United Healthcare customers starting in January of 2015 through January of 2019. And by making these calls, especially after customers specifically asked not to get any, the accusation is that United Healthcare had violated the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. And there's actually a law on the books that makes certain kinds of spam phone calls illegal. And we've talked about that before, the robo-dialers. And many of the robo-dialers were literally committing an offense every single time they dialed, and some of them were dialing millions and millions of times. But, of course, the people controlling that were often overseas. Here, of course, United Healthcare is a little more nearby and easier to get to. According to Newsweek, anyone impacted by the accusations of this lawsuit might receive between $350 and up to $1,000 as a result of the settlement. It depends on how many valid claims are filed. Top Class Actions notes that each class member would receive over $90 if every single person eligible applied, which never happens. So there's a pool of money, and the people who apply are going to divvy it up. So these potential payments exceed those made in other TCPA settlements that have been approved as fair, adequate, and reasonable, the class counsel pointed out. The settlement provides an excellent recovery for claimants, given that, or at trial, class members could obtain at most $500 to $1,500 per call. So keep in mind that, by the way, in any class action like this, if you want to, you can opt out and say, I will take this and handle this myself and pursue your individual claim. But as you know, many people won't do that in an attempt to recover $500 or $1,500 from somebody, especially if they're hard to track down. So those who believe they're eligible for these payments have until April 15th to submit a claim. So up to April 15th. And you can simply look up United Healthcare class action, and you'll find a website's devoted to this and tell you how to figure that out. So I found some other facts in some other places. In case you're curious, the lead plaintiff is proposed to receive a $20,000 award for his role in the litigation. And so when you see a class action, it'll often say, John Smith and all others similarly situated versus so-and-so. And the class action initially gets filed as an individual action, or there might be several lead plaintiffs. But the lead plaintiff or plaintiffs file the action, and then they seek to have it certified. And if the court certifies it, they still remain as the lead plaintiff. And so it's not uncommon for a court to say, since you had some initiative here getting involved in getting this thing rolling, you will get some more money than the average class member does. So the attorneys representing the class will receive a portion of the settlement fund, approximately 1/3 in this case, or about $833,000. Now, every time I do a class action story, I get people saying, but that's crazy. The attorneys shouldn't get anything. And if the attorneys got nothing, they wouldn't do these, and there'd be no class action. And so keep in mind that if they're getting a third, it looks like this is a contingency basis. And remember that any attorney fee has got to be approved by the court. And so the court's going to look at this and approve it and say, okay, we think this is reasonable. If the court didn't approve it, they wouldn't get paid. So go back to day one when John Smith walks into an office and goes, "Hey, I think I've been hurt here by this violation of the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, and I think it'd be a great class action." The attorneys agree to take the case on and litigate it, not knowing for sure if they're going to get paid. Now, I know some people want to say, "Steve, you know they're going to get paid." No, I've seen many attorneys go into court who thought they're going to get paid and didn't get paid. So it's not carved in stone. And that is part of the game here, is that they likewise are gambling, because if they put a ton of work and effort into a class action and something happens to where it just doesn't pan out, well, they've spun their wheels for nothing. So individuals who received unauthorized telemarketing calls from United Healthcare between January 9th of 2015 and January 9th of 2019 may be eligible for this settlement. So what happens next, there is a hearing scheduled for June, which will determine the final approval of the settlement. So again, the attorney fee award I just mentioned and the awards for the plaintiff class members is not carved in stone yet either. There's going to be a hearing in June. If the settlement is approved during the hearing, payments are expected to be distributed to class members who filed valid claims within 30 days of approval. And so I've been talking about class actions a bit in the last year or two. And I've had people send me a couple recently where they actually got some substantial money. And I had someone send me a note, and they sent me a copy of what they got, indicating they'd gotten several $1,000s from a class action. And so it's always fascinating, because I've been involved in a bunch of class actions. I mean, as a class member, I've also filed class actions, and I've had statewide class actions certified that I filed. Okay, but I'm talking about where I got something, and I remember one of my favorite ones is the one is, did you buy a compact disc, a CD, in this one time period? And I had bought many CDs because I listened to a lot of music. And I'd bought a lot of CDs. So I remember getting a thing in the mail that says, did you buy a CD? Now, I think to initiate that one, you had to contact them and say, yes, I bought a CD. They then sent you a thing that you confirmed that you bought a CD between these two time periods, and you sent that back in. And then somewhere way down the road, you get a thing in the mail that looks like junk mail. Actually, it's a thing you open up, and it's a check. But it's the size of a postcard, and it's made out of cardboard, so it doesn't feel like a check. And I think it was for like 87 cents or something. I'm pretty sure it was less than $1. But what had happened was they'd said, okay, here's how much money we're going to recover. We're going to divvy it up amongst all the claimants. And the number of claimants they got was huge, because a lot of people bought CDs. And in case you're curious what the underlying allegation was, that some of the biggest companies selling music had gotten together and manipulated the market on prices somehow, and there's some price fixing or something going on. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. I was an attorney at the time, but it was a long time ago. So I just read an article yesterday about when CDs first came in, and it was basically, 1990-ish, 91-ish, and then pretty soon they dominated the market. CDs had like 95% of the market, and then they went back to almost zero, because now it's all digital and vinyl, believe it or not, but not so much CDs. But here we're talking about, there was a 4-year period, 4 years, before COVID, by the way, where if you got a telemarketing call from United Healthcare and you are a United Healthcare customer, you might get yourself up to $1,000. So look into that. And again, it's if you're a United Healthcare customer back then. So yeah, you could get up to $1,000. Yeah, the attorneys are going to get about $800,000 if they get everything they ask for, but it's all going to be taken care of at a hearing in June. But you've got until April to get your act together to try to get yourself some of that sweet, sweet class action money. So Sean, thanks for sending that from Newsweek and Penn Live. Claudia DeMuro wrote the Penn Live story. United Healthcare customers might get paid up to $1,000. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Life is too important to be taken seriously.